The WEC, short for World Endurance Championship, is the top of the endurance racing ladder. It is the series behind the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I'm here to get you up to speed. There are timestamps in the description if you only need information about a specific section. Let's start with the classes. There are 3 classes in the 2023 season: Hypercar, LMP2 and GTE. All have 3 drivers per car, who change at pit stops. For those not familiar to multi-class racing, you can see it as 3 different races on the same track at the same time. Hypercar is the fastest class. Manufacturer teams and privateer teams are allowed. They have the same tire size except for only Peugeot. There are 2 main types of cars a manufacturer can build: LMDH and LMH. These cars can have traction control, but no ABS. LMDH cars are based on the next gen LMP2 chassis. Manufacturer choose the base chassis of one of 4 manufacturers: Dallara, Orica, Multimac or Ligier. LMDH cars have the same gearbox and mandatory hybrid system on the rear axle, and the manufacturers add their own bodywork and engine to complete the car. LMH cars are designed and built from the ground up by the manufacturer, and you can choose to fit up to a 200 kW hybrid system on the front axle. This means we can differentiate LMH cars between hybrid and non-hybrid cars. Unlike F1, the regulations are very open on what you can do with the bodywork and engine. In Hypercar there's a set downforce and drag window your car needs to fall in, and a regulated power curve. If you want to have 3 rear wings, you can. If you want to have no rear wing like Peugeot, you can, as long as your car falls in the downforce and drag window and meets aerodynamic stability criteria. Same for the engine. If you want a big atmospheric American V8 like Cadillac, go for it. If you can somehow get a 1 liter 3-cylinder turbo to make the set power, you can use it. This is why the 7 different manufacturers racing this year look and sound so different, in contrast to F1, where you would have a hard time differentiating the cars if they were all painted black. On top of that, there's a balance of performance system, or BOP for short, in place to keep all cars level. The parameters that can be adjusted by the governing bodies are max power, front wheel deployment speed, weight and energy per stint used. Power can be set from 480 kilowatts to 520 kilowatts. This is the max power the car can deliver to the wheels at any time. It doesn't matter if it's delivered by the ICE or by a hybrid drivetrain, so the hybrid cars don't have the extra boost out of corners they had or have currently in F1. You might hear otherwise from the commentators this season, but don't listen to them. They likely haven't read a single line in the technical regulations. Regular fans of this channel know how many runs I've done about this already. As I already said, the LMH hybrid cars have the hybrid system on the front axle, so they have 4-wheel drive. To keep it fair for the 2-wheel drive cars, the minimum speed to use the front wheel drive is set for every 4-wheel drive car. It will be around 150 to 190 km per hour. However, 4-wheel drive might not be entirely fair. More info about this can be found in my last video. The second parameter is weight. All hypercars have a minimum weight of 1030 kilos, and up to 50 kilograms of ballast can be added by BOP. And at last we have energy per stint. You can see this as max fuel use per stint, but since the different engines and drivetrains consume different amounts of fuel, they use wheel sensors to measure the energy output of the drivetrain. Going over it in the race will result in a penalty. The balance of performance is set at the start of the season and will not be changed until after Le Mans, to prevent team sandbagging. The only thing that can be changed between the start of the season is the balance between the LMH and LMDH cars every 2 races. So if one LMDH car gets 5 kilograms of ballast, so do the other LMDH cars. Now that everything on the technical side is cleared up, let's look at which manufacturers have made which type of car. LMH hybrid, aka the 4-wheel drive cars: Toyota, Peugeot, Ferrari. LMH non-hybrid cars, the only non-hybrid cars in the whole class: Glickenhaus and Vanwall. For the LMH, we have Porsche with a Multimac chassis and Cadillac with a Dallara chassis. The manufacturer teams will run either 1 or 2 cars, with 2 teams picking up a Porsche Dallara LMDH later in the season to enter them as private entries. This is the full season entry list for the Hypercar class. Pause if you need to. Additionally, there is a few manufacturers who have requested to enter an extra car at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. These include Cadillac, Glickenhaus and Vanwall, but it is not clear if they will be accepted. The second class is LMP2. These cars are a couple of seconds a lap slower than Hypercar. They have less power, but are lighter. They can keep up with the Hypercars in the corners, but fall back on the straight. These cars weigh 950 kilos without fuel and driver, and produce around 510 horsepower. They have traction control, but no ABS. Only teams independent of a manufacturer are allowed to enter. Teams can buy an LMP2 chassis of a manufacturer. In recent years, every team has run an Orica chassis because it's the fastest and they offer the great customer support. All LMP2 cars have the same drivetrain and electronics, so it's basically a spec class at this point. Every driver lineup must have at least one silver or bronze ranked driver, more about driver rankings later. Most of the teams racing in LMP2 this year have been selected by hypercar manufacturers to run their factory program next year, so these teams are still some of the best in sports car racing. The slowest class is GTE. GTE cars are race versions of road cars. They weigh about 1250 kilograms and produce around 600 horsepower. They are often confused with GT3. They are a bit faster than GT3, but unlike them, they don't have ABS, but do feature a balance of performance like Hypercar and GT3. Most teams are privateer teams this year, except for Corvette. Car brands that teams are running this year are Ferrari, Porsche, Aston Martin and Corvette. This class is mainly focused on gentleman drivers. Gentleman drivers are drivers who fund the team to race. They aren't professional drivers. Most of them are CEOs of big companies during the week, so they are often seconds a lap slower than the professional drivers. But it's fair because they have a minimum drive time and every team has a gentleman driver. Every lineup must have at least one bronze graded driver, a gentleman driver, another bronze or silver, and the third driver can be any professional driver. A big part of the strategy in this class is to lose the least amount of time with your slowest driver. Teams will try to get the bronze driver in the car in the best conditions, so that the track is predictable and they can focus on not making mistakes. Driver rankings. Driver rankings are set by the FIA. From slowest to fastest, the rankings are bronze, silver, gold and platinum. They are determined based on when the driver first started racing, their age and past achievements. The entire list of when a driver is which rank is too long, but some examples of the criteria are: bronze drivers get their racing license after 30 and having been in F1 automatically means platinum. What does a race week look like? There are 3 different race lengths this season: 6 hour, 8 hour and the one 24 hour race. Of course, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. On 6 and 8 hour race weekends, there are 2 90-minute practice sessions on the first day. On the second day there is one 60-minute practice session and 3 15-minute qualifying sessions, one for every class. On the third day there's the race. For Le Mans, teams have an entire test day the week prior, and 4 more practice sessions during the race week. A single qualifying session for all classes is held somewhere in between the practice sessions. The top 6 of each class go into Hyperpole to determine the top positions of the grid. Pit stop and tire rules. Hypercar and GTE run bespoke tires. These tires are designed for the specific car. LMP2 cars all have the same customer tires. Using different compounds in a race is permitted like in F1, although you won't see it being talked about a lot in the races. Tires are limited in individual tires you can use. Unlike F1, you can mix and match different sets and even compounds. Pit stops can only be done under green flag, and pit stops are done in 2 stages. 1. Fuel and safety. When the fuel hose is attached, the teams can only do safety work. This includes cleaning the windshield, getting debris out of the radiators and checking the tires. Not every stop features a tire change, but only after the fuel hose disconnects, the tire may be changed. Only 4 people are allowed over the pit line at once, 2 tire changes and 2 tire carriers. It is also not uncommon to see teams change left or right side only during a pit stop. You may see cars going into the garage for repairs and coming back out later to rejoin the race again, as in these long races there is way more time to catch back up. unlike single-seater races where teams tend to give up after losing 2 laps. Championship and points. 6-hour races give ordinary FIA points. First 25, second 18, third 15, fourth 12. From there on, each place is stepping down 2 points, and 10th gives 1 point. The rest of the finishing competitors receive half a point. 8-hour races, Sebring and Bahrain this year, award 1.5 times points, and Le Mans awards double points. Additionally, pole position in every class gets an extra point. Le Mans sees a lot of additional entries. For the point scoring, the Le Mans only entries are being removed. So if you finish second but the car in first is not an all-season WEC entry, you get points for first. LMP2 and GGE both have a teams and drivers championship, but since not every team has 2 cars, the championship points are counted to every car individually. Hypercar features a driver championship and 2 teams championships. Manufacturers competing for the FIA Hypercar World Endurance Championship must enter at least 1 and a maximum of 2 cars. Any additional cars from the same manufacturer, including privately entered cars, must be entered in the Hypercar's Teams World Cup classification. Manufacturers must determine beforehand which cars will enter in the World Championship and which will race in the World Cup. And there you go. That's all you need to know to watch WEC in 2023. If you can't find a local broadcaster, you can buy the full season pack on the WEC website for like €40. You'll get access to live timing and the broadcast for every session. But keep in mind that FP1 and FP2 are not broadcasted. If you have any further questions about the WEC, leave a comment and I'll respond to every question. Subscribe for more unique Hypercar content coming this year, and leave a thumbs up if this video was helpful. This was Endu-Rants, see you in the next one.